Hi everybody, my name is Miguel. I'm a software developer at MySQL. You know, now it's Oracle. MySQL was bought by Sun bought Oracle, you know the story. So I'm working on the MySQL Enterprise Tools team. We developed the MySQL Enterprise Monitor, I don't know if you know about it, and the proxy. I'm going to talk about the proxy. I'm working on it mainly, and also some components of the Enterprise Monitor. So, this is the agenda for today. I'm going to show you what is MySQL Proxy, give you the concepts behind it, a bit of the architecture in a high level and more low level, how do we use it, the plugins, some scenarios, use cases, and examples and demo. I want to do a more demonstrative talk rather than super technical and boring. So, and then I'll also talk about the future, how can we improve, and questions. First of all, do you know it? Somebody know it? No? Okay. So I guess nobody uses it. So what is proxy? Proxy, as you can guess from the name, it's a piece of software that stands between the client and the server. It speaks MySQL. What means it speaks MySQL? It communicates over the network using the MySQL protocol. So it understands everything that passes between the client and the server, and the other way around from the server to the client. So as you can guess, if we see everything that passes in the network, we can analyze, block, inject queries, rewrite them, route them, filter, do logging, everything you can imagine. So it's like a man in the middle, but a good one. The concepts behind it is mostly this. It's transparent to the client. The client doesn't need to know that it's connecting to the proxy, so it just connects to a port that is supposed to be a normal MySQL server port, but is in fact the proxy. And it does everything it needs to do with the MySQL server without knowing it's behind the proxy. So it supports all major platforms. We provide you binaries for almost all platforms. You can also build it, compile it yourself. We use Automake and CMake for Windows. It's open source. The source is out on Launchpad, and it's a GPL license. So, and on the design side of things, the important thing to say is that it has a plugins layer, so we can customize proxy the way we want. We can just write plugins and put on top of it and do whatever we want. And that's customized with Lua scripts. Why Lua? By the way, Lua, I don't know if you know Lua. You know? So, it's a scripting language, very simple, straightforward, it's lightweight. And the thing here is that it's embedded, so it provides a C API and we can talk with the C code using Lua. And that's why we choose it. This little figure here that has a Sakila, that is the MySQL Dolphin, like a phone operator in school. So you can see here the client just connects, sends a query to proxy forwards to the server replies with an answer, and proxy forwards the answer to the client. So this is the most basic usage of proxy, without any configuration, just the default behavior. Some use cases, you can guess, I already told you some. It's query analysis, manipulation, we can rewrite the queries, we can inject queries, we can do, on the high availability side, we can do load balancing, failover, sharding, read-write splitting, we can have a connection pool. You can see here, proxy has 3 backends, the client connects to proxy, the client doesn't know that there's backends, you can do failover, load balancing, all that stuff. On the architecture side of things, proxies has 4 layers. The first one is the more low level, is the chassis. The chassis is provides all the main features that an application needs. Command line, configuration file parsing, the command line arguments and options. In this case, loads the plugins. Then is the network core. This is how proxy understands MySQL protocol, implements all the socket handling, and all the MySQL protocol. Then is the plugins layer. We can load plugins, make them do whatever we want, expose an API to the Lua. That is here, the Lua scripting. We can expose in the plugins are written in C. All this is written in C. So we can expose hooks, and we can then customize the plugins to do whatever we need using Lua scripting. This is a little bit more detailed image. This is the chassis. That is in fact has like 4 sub-layers. That is the chassis itself. The lib event, that is a library to handle events. This is the protocol, MySQL protocol, and the libraries for Lua. Then we have the network core, like I told you. Here the plugins layer, we loaded 2 plugins, the proxy and the admin plugin, and then the scripting layer. The proxy itself, on its default behavior, it's actually the proxy plugin. So it's the plugin that is loaded by default. That's why it's called proxy. So how do we start proxy? Which are the command line options? Can I have a configuration file? How does it look like? I will show you. Okay, maybe this is not the best colors. I built proxy here. Here's the binaries, and the include, the libraries, and in the script folder I put some examples. This is the helper. You can just start proxy with the default. Doesn't say anything. You can add some logging. Here you see the proxy started, plugin proxy is listening on this port and has added a default backend. That is this one. It's actually not real, it's just a default. So, proxy plugin, the main one. What does it do? It does everything that I told you before. It forwards the queries, handles the responses. So it accepts connections on the proxy address. I just choose the IP address I want, the port I want, and it accepts connections from the client side. It forwards the data to the backend addresses. I can set how many I want. I can set read and write backends, or just read only backends. And we can customize it and change its default behavior using a Lua script. We pass it on with the proxy Lua script option. This is a little example of some hooks that we expose to the Lua layer. The connect server function, that is the one that when the client connects, it handles the connection to the server. The read query, that is the one that when the client sends something, it reads the packet and you can do whatever you want. And this is for the results. I'll show you. Here's the helper for the proxy plugin. I'll just start. We'll add the backend on this port. We'll start the MySQL server on this port 6514, and here you go. I will add some more info on the logo. Okay, here it is. This list on this port has this backend. Now I can connect to the port 4040. There it is. It's just connected to proxy. It's normal MySQL client, everybody knows it. Acting normally. This is proxy on its default behavior, doesn't do anything. Other plugin, it's the admin plugin. This is an administration interface. Only authenticated users can connect to it. We have to specify username and password. And this is mainly to provide information about the proxy server, about connections, backends, configuration, queries, etc. We must use a Lua script. We have to use it like with this option, and so that we can access the internal components. I can show you the helper. Set an address, like the proxy one, 44.1. The user, password. It's complaining that it doesn't have a Lua script. Okay, there it is. It's listening on this part. 4041. If we connect there. This is the admin interface. We only have this at the moment. Pretty simple. I can show you the code. Can you see? It's kind of dark. Can you change the color scheme? Here is better? No. Sorry, I like dark. So, here's the main function, the read query. Here we parse the packet. We see that we check if it is a count query. This is how MySQL protocol calls to query packets. And if it is not, we say, sorry, we cannot handle it. And here, we parse the query. We check if it's this. That's what I sent, and I show you. And if so, no, not this one. The helper, this one. If so, we can just set a result set here. Use the MySQL types. Set a result set. We write whatever we want to write. And here, with this is the hook to to the C code, the state machine that says to send the result set back to the client. Here we send it. So this is just a simple script to show more or less how it works. If we start this with proxy and admin at the same time, let's see. Here we started with the admin plugin and the proxy plugin. Admin is listening here, proxy is listening here. We have a backend. You can connect to the backend. This is the proxy port. Connected. So on the admin interface, we have this other option, that is select all from backends. And it shows us that we have a backend on this address. It's up, the type is read-write. There is one connected client, that is the one I just connected. How does it tell us that? Here, we parse the query, and we access the proxy internals through proxy.global.backends. That has the list of all backends, and we have the states, the types. We access, we set them, and we send the information back to the client. More scenarios. Just to do before query manipulation, let's just, on this example, to intercept some user queries and rewrite them. I have here a little bit of code. This is the main function, the read query. Like I told you, we parse if it is a COM query packet. We do some, this is just to compare the string with Lua. We put this in uppercase, we compare with full. And if so, we just append the query to this queue, that is a proxy queue. We append with ID number 1. We put that is a COM query packet, and we append the query bar. It's just to tell you. And then we use the proxy send query to send it. Oh, here. This is the script, the real one. Just here. You see that we received the query, we print it, just for debug. Here what I chose was this query. We can write the time, and what proxy does is append on the queue the real query that I want, that is select now. And then we send that to the server, and we get the answer. Show this working. Connect. And we send the query time. This doesn't exist. And proxy knows what to do. It just transforms into a select now. So this is just simple query rewriting using proxy. Another scenario can be query injection. We can grab some queries that the user sent, add it with some other queries. We can inject whatever we want and just send to the server, get a response. Here's a little example. On this case, we append on the ID with ID number 2 on the queue this query, select current user, we set this flag as true. We say we need a result set, and then this is the important part. The read query result is the function that handles the results from the server. In this case, we check in the injection queue if the ID is 2, this one. And if so, we iterate over the result set, we print it, we change it, we do whatever we want. And on this case, I just ignore the results. I will show you. This is a script, full script. Here the same thing as before. In this case, we got a packet, a query. We append that query without any alteration with the ID number 1 on the queue. And on the queue with ID number 2, we append this query. So here, this is the injection. Then we send back to the server with same query. And on the read query result, here, we check if the ID is number 2, and if so, we just iterate over the result set. We print what the server answers back, and in this case, I just ignore the results. So the client will not even know that there was a query injection. Connect, I send a query, one, whatever. Select one is just sending a select one back. And here, the real thing happening. Here is the injection of the first query, that is the select one. This is the injection that I added on the script. And the return, the result set is this. Was a select current user, so it's msandbox. msandbox at localhost. So this is basic query injection. Load balancing. We can do load balancing with proxy too. We can have proxy here, connect. Any client can connect to it. We have several backends. We can do load balancing. I have here a little example. In this case, the connect server function, that is the one that handles the client connection. It just gets a connection to the backend. And on the read auth result, this is the function that handles the result of the authentication of the client. And here, if it's successful, we just put it on the pool. We use the connection pool. Then on the read query, we basically get the first idle server. We have the pool with all the server, all the connections. We have the servers, the backends. We choose the first idle one. We choose it. We set it for the current backend, and we send the query there. Then on the read query result, we manage the backend use. If it is actually in a transaction, don't do anything. If the transaction is over, just make it free and be available for another client. On the disconnect clients, we just manage the clients disconnecting. I'm not showing this working now because this is better. It's basically the same but even better. This is the read-write splitting. Here we have a simple topology of replication, a master to slave, a tree topology. And what we want is to split the reads to the slaves and the writes to the master. It's basically the same. The main difference is here on the read query function. We use the SQL parser and we have a tokenizer and we check if the query is a select. And if so, we pick an idle slave and that's where the queries go. If it is not a select, if it is some DML statement, we send it to the master. Here is the same, we manage the backends, we disconnect clients. It's working. just starting a master and 3 slaves. Just another part. So here on the proxy backend addresses, this is the read write, this is the master, and then we have read-only backends. One slave. Another slave and the script. Okay. Okay. Just connect the client. So this is the client connecting. This is just for debug. Has information. Let's connect more clients. Now, for example, if we send a select one, you can see here. Okay, it's here. Username, the query, select one, and you can see here that he's a slave. He wants to send to a slave, and this is the address of the first slave. And if we use some insert into we send an insert in here. It's sent to the master. Where is the sent to? No, this is the whole point of thing. That's it. So, proxy is used worldwide. It's open source. We don't know who uses it for real. We just know there's lots of users. We receive people contacting us. We receive bug reports and etc. And it's actually used in production. The MySQL Enterprise Monitor uses a branch of proxy and some plugins. And basically, the MySQL Enterprise Monitor, for those who don't know, it's basically a monitoring tool for MySQL to monitor all servers you want. And we use proxy to open the black box of MySQL. We want to know what's happening from the client to the servers. We want to know the queries, we want to know statistics and information about all the queries, so we use proxy for it. And this is being used in production for at least 5 years. At the moment we're on 0.4. This is not GA yet. And we know about some limitations and issues that we're working on. So for example, first one can be performance issues. There's a big fat lock with a scripting layer. There's a big fat lock, so there's latency added. I can tell you that it's around 400 microseconds, not much. But we are working on removing that. We already did work. It's going very well. And other thing that people complain about is the plugins are loaded at start. So if you want to load another plugin, you have to shut down proxy and restart it with the option to load another plugin. So we want to be able to load the plugins in runtime. And we also worked on that. We are working on it. And other big thing is people complaining that they need to use Lua, and people want to use other scripting languages. And we are also working on that. We did progress. We already are able to use other languages. We are moving the code to G-Object. I don't know if you know about it. And we use something interesting that is G-object introspection that allows us way more flexibility. And the admin plugin is kind of limited, as you saw, and we are writing a brand new admin plugin to be a real interface administration interface. So basically, we want to the admin plugin to load plugins in real time, to unload, to add users, to add backends, to remove backends, instead of being doing everything on the console. And also, we want to gather statistics from the admin plugin. We wrote a SQL parser, and you can send your own SQL, like select uptime from proxy, and it just throws the uptime tab of proxy, or select latency from read queries or whatever. We have all that information like it was SQL. And code optimizations. I told you we're moving to G-object, we're rewriting a lot of code, adding GTK doc, moving to CMake. We use CMake for Windows and we use Automake for Linux. We're moving everything to CMake. And better threading, lots of optimization. So the next will be 09. So if you want to download it, just go to the MySQL downloads webpage. If you want to branch the code, just BZR branch Launchpad proxy. And any questions, or if you want to discuss something or whatever, you have a use case you'd like to use proxy but you don't know how to do it, just send me an email, or to Jan Neschke, that is the person that created, or Mark Litt, that is the manager behind the project. And we're also in IRC on Freenode on the MySQL Proxy channel.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.